to Gemini AI because I wanted to ask Google AI something, and then while I was here, I was able to get it to generate a text-based B-24 tail gunner game. So then I thought to ask it to create well, here's the request. Create an imaginative and funny text-based adventure game set in modern times and controlled by text prompts. Alright, buckle up, Buttercup, because you're about to embark on the most bewildering beige adventure of your life, the quest for the lost Tupperware. You wake up to the soul-crushing realization that your favorite perfectly sized limited edition avocado green Tupperware container is missing. It contained the last of your grandma's legendary suspiciously spicy surprise casserole. This is a culinary crisis of epic proportions. You're standing in your tiny apartment, which looks like a tornado of laundry and half-eaten snacks hit it. Prompt, what do you do? For example, check under the couch, call grandma, panic, and eat a stale chip. Gameplay examples. Player, check under the couch. Game, you plunge your hand into the abyss beneath the couch cushions. You emerge with a lint-covered sock, a remote control with no batteries, and a single petrified French fry. No Tupperware. What do you do? Player, call grandma. You dial grandma. Her ringtone is a surprisingly loud death metal track. Hello, sweetie? Did you find my Tupperware yet? She asks, her voice surprisingly menacing. It contains the secret recipe, you know, the one that makes people spontaneously breakdance. Prompt, ask about the breakdancing or hang up and check the fridge. Another option is panic and eat a stale chip. You grab a chip from a nearby bag. It's as stale as a week-old newspaper. You feel a sudden, overwhelming sense of existential dread. Your character's motivation stat has decreased. Prompt, search the fridge or cry into a pillow. Player, another option is search the fridge. The fridge is a chaotic landscape. Anyway, so you get a bunch of options. I don't know why it coaches you by offering all these different options. And then absurd scenarios, expect the unexpected, from talking pickles to breakdancing grandmas. Inventory system, certain items you collect will affect your choices. Stat tracking, humorous, the stats are motivation, dignity, and stomach capacity will fluctuate. Actually, I don't think I saw stomach capacity as one of the stats. Multiple endings, will you find the Tupperware? Will you become a breakdancing sensation? Will you just give up and order pizza? To make this more interactive, I would need you to provide your next action after each game response. I will then provide the next portion of the story. Let's start. You wake up to the soul-crushing realization that your favoritely... I think we already covered this, right? You're standing in your tiny apartment, which looks like a tornado of laundry and half-eaten snacks hit it. What do you do? So I say search under the mountain of laundry. Alright, you bravely decide to face the laundry mountain, a wise if somewhat smelly choice. Game, you dive headfirst into the towering pile of clothes, a chaotic mix of mismatched socks, questionable t-shirts, and that one sweater you swore you'd return. The air is thick with the scent of fabric softener and mild despair. After a vigorous rummaging session, you emerge, disheveled and slightly dusty, holding a crumpled $5 bill, a single mismatched flip-flop, and a small furry creature that appears to be a dust bunny with googly eyes. The Tupperware remains elusive. Squeak, the googly-eyed dust bunny inquires, tilting its head. Your stats. Motivation slightly decreased. The laundry mountain is demoralizing. Dignity moderately decreased. You just wrestled a laundry pile. Inventory $5, one flip-flop, one googly-eyed dust bunny. Prompt, what do you do? And then I ignore the options and then I create my own option. Knock on my neighbor's door to ask if I can borrow their dog. Okay, you decide a canine companion is just what you need for this Tupperware quest. You march to your neighbor's door and give it a firm knock. The game responds. The door swings open, revealing a person in pajamas covered in cat hair. A fluffy Persian cat is perched on their shoulder, glaring at you with disdain. Yes, your neighbor asks, sounding slightly annoyed. Hi, you say. I'm on a very important mission to find my missing Tupperware, and I was wondering if I could borrow your dog. Your neighbor raises an eyebrow. I don't have a dog. This is Mittens, they say, gesturing to the cat, and she's not the borrowing type, unless you have tuna. Mittens, seemingly understanding, gives a slow, deliberate blink. However, your neighbor continues, I did see something green in the hallway earlier. It might have been your Tupperware, but it was near that apartment. They point down the hall with a shudder. Let's see. Your stats: motivation slightly increased, a potential lead, dignity unchanged. Inventory is the same. Prompt: what do you do? And then I decide to I thank the neighbor for their assistance and search down the hallway for anything green. Thank you, you say, trying to ignore Mitten's judgmental stare. You turn and head down the hallway where a faint, vaguely floral air freshener scent battles with the lingering aroma of mystery leftovers. The hallway is dimly lit and the carpet is a questionable shade of beige. You scan the area, your eyes peeled for anything avocado green. You spot a discarded green sock looking rather lonely, a small green plastic dinosaur lying on its side, and near the door of that apartment a faint green smudge on the wall. The smudge looks suspiciously like casserole residue. As you get closer to the door, you hear a faint, rhythmic thumping coming from inside. Your stats: motivation increased, the trail is hot, dignity unchanged, inventory unchanged. What do? Knock on the next neighbor's door and ask to borrow their dog while keeping my eyes peeled for green objects inside their apartment. Okay, undeterred by the lack of canine assistance at the previous door, you approach the neighbor's door. You knock, all while subtly trying to peek inside for any green objects. You're a master of multitasking after all. The door opens a crack, revealing a single suspicious eye. Who is it? A muffled voice asks. Hi, I'm your neighbor, you begin, and I'm on a very important quest to find my missing Tupperware. I was wondering if you might have a dog I could borrow. The door remains only slightly ajar. A dog? No, go away. The eye disappears and the door slams shut. Your peripheral vision, however, catches a glimpse of something green. It's a fuzzy green bath mat just inside the doorway. Not Tupperware, but still green. The rhythmic thumping from that apartment continues, growing slightly louder. Motivation slightly decreased, another dead end for the dog idea. Dignity unchanged. What do? Place my ear against the wall to see if I can discern the source of the thumping. You decide to go full detective mode. Excellent choice. You carefully place your ear against the wall, separating you from that apartment, hoping to decipher the mysterious thumping. The wall is surprisingly cold. You press your ear closer, trying to filter out the ambient hallway noises. The thumping is definitely rhythmic, a steady thump, thump, thump. It's accompanied by a faint, high-pitched yip, yip, yip. You can also hear a muffled voice, possibly singing along to some kind of electronic polka music, the distinct sound of something sizzling, and is that the faint aroma of Grandma's suspiciously spicy casserole? The thumping is growing slightly faster and louder. Motivation slightly increased. You're close. Dignity slightly decreased. You're literally pressed against a wall. And inventory unchanged. Prompt: what do? I follow my nose and sniffing out the scent of Grandma's casserole. You abandon the wall listening technique and decide to trust your nose, a truly noble pursuit. take a deep breath, inhaling the tantalizing aroma of Grandma's suspiciously spicy surprise. The scent is strongest near that apartment, but it's also wafting faintly from the ventilation grate near the ceiling. It's a complex aroma, a symphony of spices, secret ingredients, and a hint of something that might be glitter. I didn't know glitter had a scent. You follow the scent trail, which leads you to the door of that apartment where the casserole aroma is practically overwhelming. The ventilation grate, which seems to be vibrating slightly with the thumping rhythm, and a small green trail of what looks like casserole residue leading under the door of that apartment. The rhythmic thumping and yipping continue, and the electronic polka music is getting louder. Motivation extremely high, casserole proximity, dignity slightly decreased, you're sniffing the floor. What do? Knock on the door of that apartment and toss the dust bunny through the opening. You decide on a daring, if slightly unorthodox, approach. You take a deep breath, steel your nerves, and give the door of that apartment a firm, decisive knock. The rhythmic thumping and yipping abruptly stop. The electronic polka music cuts out. There's a moment of tense silence, then a muffled voice calls out, "Who's there?" "It's your neighbor," you reply, trying to sound as assertive as possible. "I'm here for my Tupperware." The door creaks open a sliver. Before they can react, you swiftly toss the googly-eyed dust bunny through the opening. "Squeak," the dust bunny exclaims as it lands with a soft thud inside. A startled yelp echoes from within, followed by a series of frantic scrambling sounds. The door swings open wider, revealing a small fluffy dog wearing a tiny sequined vest, yipping excitedly at the dust bunny. A person wearing a chef's hat and a pair of glittery oven mitts, holding a spatula covered in casserole residue. And your avocado green Tupperware container sitting on a table, emitting a faint shimmering glow. The dog is now attempting to lick the dust bunny, who seems to be enjoying the attention. Your stats: motivation maximum, Tupperware located, dignity questionable, dust bunny tactic. What do? I exclaim, so this is where I hear that excellent polka music originating from. If I have my grandmother bake another helping of her famous casserole, would that be... why is that truncated? Would that be suitable payment for my own personal polka concert? Your unexpected declaration throws the casserole-wielding neighbor completely off guard. The neighbor's eyes widen and their spatula hand trembles slightly. You like the polka?" they stammer, their voice filled with a mixture of surprise and hope. The dog, still enthusiastically licking the dust bunny, lets out a happy bark. "Like it," you reply, adopting a theatrical pose. "I adore it. It's the perfect soundtrack for casserole consumption. And if my grandmother were to provide a fresh batch of her suspiciously spicy surprise, would that be sufficient payment for a private polka performance?" The neighbor's face lights up. "A fresh batch for me, and you'd listen to my polka?" They look down at the sequined vest and the dog, whose tail is now wagging furiously. "This is my dog Sparkles," they say, a hint of pride in their voice. "We're practicing for the neighborhood pet talent show. The polka is our signature act." "Then it's a deal," you declare. "Tupperware for casserole and polka." You grab your avocado green Tupperware, which is still radiating a faint warm glow. The aroma of Grandma's casserole fills the room, mingling with a slightly metallic scent of Sparkle's sequined vest. Your stats: motivation maximum, Tupperware retrieved, polka negotiated. Dignity surprisingly high, polka diplomacy. Ending, you leave the apartment, Tupperware in hand, the sounds of electronic polka music and happy yipping echoing behind you. You know that soon you'll be enjoying Grandma's casserole while listening to a private polka concert, courtesy of your neighbor and their talented dog, Sparkles. Congratulations, you have successfully completed the quest for the lost Tupperware. Would you like to play again or try a different adventure? So, this is a lot like the old Infocom text-based adventures that you could play on the Commodore 64/128, and I imagine other systems too. And there were a number of these text-based adventures. I think I owned two of them at the time, back in the late 80s. And you could input like multiple sentences of directions on what you wanted to do at a time, and the game would adapt to those and provide responses to each of your sentences. And it seemed rather flexible in what it allowed as a text prompt. And I could only imagine, based on my experience with basic programming at the time, or rather programming in the basic programming language, was that someone was sat down and was trying to think up every possible entry a person could make, and then providing a response based on those entries. Seemed like a lot of work. But one of those Infocom text-based adventures was like this style. It was a comedy, humorous in its style. And for example, there was I specifically remember that there was a parrot, I think it was missing a left wing, so he had a right wing, so he was a right-wing fascist parrot, or maybe it was the inverse, he was missing his right wing so that he was a left-wing communist parrot, I forget. But anyway, it was a one-winged parrot in the game to give you an idea at the humorous bent of the story. But what I think is obvious here is that whereas you would occasionally get a response with the Infocom text-based adventures that you can't do that, or it just, it wouldn't give you a satisfying response to whatever your text prompt was. Here, the large language model that is the basis for Gemini, it can adapt to your prompts on the fly. So even though I wasn't headed in the direction that the game was suggesting, it was able to adapt and to also understand the ramifications of my moves. And anyway, pretty neat. So if you're ever like bored and you want to try out a text-based adventure, do some reading in the process, you can simply go to gemini.google.com and try it out, and then you could, if you want to copy what I did, of course your output's probably going to be different. I would just enter create an imaginative and funny text-based adventure game set in modern times and controlled by text prompts. Of course, you could set yours in some other time period, or you could even change the style of your adventure game. But I don't see anything wrong with being amused while you're reading, so that's why I suggested a funny text-based adventure game. So give it a try.